Cathedral of Reims, terribly mutilated in the war, but now being slowly restored to its former glory, stands guardian over the virgin vineyards which produce the world's most famous and fascinating wine. This ancient tapestry shows the traditional miracle of Saint Remy, the celebrated Archbishop of Reims of the 6th century, who, at his cousin's wedding feast, made champagne gush from an empty cask. The Abbey of Hautvillers stands in one of the most picturesque parts of the valley of the Marne. It was founded in the 7th century and was the home, 1,000 years later, of a monk called Dom Perignon, who brought the art of champagne making to a high degree of perfection. Each year, the eve of the vintage, peasants of Champagne ask the blessing of their patron, St. Vincent, on the ripening grapes. This saint's insignia is solemnly borne through the streets of Hautvillers, in accordance with an ancient tradition. His secret lay only in the cultivation of champagne's natural tendency to sparkle. Its sparkling qualities had always been apparent, and today, when human methods of production are so highly developed, it is still Dame Nature and the prisoned sunshine in the wine which gives birth to those beaded bubbles winking at the brim. Grapes have to be gathered as quickly as possible, and scrupulous care is taken to ensure the perfection of the wine. From each individual bunch, the defective grapes are cut out with special scissors. Laughing and singing, these charming, gaily bonneted girls carry out the picturesque ritual of the village. The velvety bloom of the grape contains the ferments which will later transform the simple grape juice into the golden wine of gladness. The Marne, river of tragedy and triumph. On its beautiful banks, devastated by the war in 1918, the vines now flourish as symbols of peace and goodwill. Baskets arrive at the neighboring vendangeoir, where they are weighed and poured into the press. Cunningly blended together later on, the black grapes will give body to the wine, and the white grapes will impart the delicacy. how easily the abundant foam forms, and how wonderfully clear and transparent the gleaming wine is. The time has come for these young wines to be tasted and perfectly blended together, a very delicate operation, the secret of which we owe to Dom Perignon. This great monk was blind, but so perfect was his palate that he was able to produce wines of undreamed of delicacy. This is a manufactory of champagne bottles. Great care and skill is needed in the manufacture of these bottles, for they have to withstand the powerful pressure of the wine for many years. They are now made automatically by marvelous machines. First corking is only temporary. The cork will be changed later during a process called the disgorgement. But the wine itself will never leave its original bottle. The bottles are now going to be taken down to the cellars or into the famous conveyer. From the material of these great excavations sprang the 3rd century city of Reims. Excavated by the Romans, these conveyors provided the white chalk from which the original city was built. Today they form majestic hollow pyramids connected by innumerable galleries, which, together with the important cellars of Aix and Epernay, have a total length of nearly 150 miles. Here, 150 million bottles of champagne are always taking the several years' beauty sleep, which ends in such a dazzling awakening. Bottles lie thus for a number of years in order that the wine may reach its full perfection. Then comes the day when they are placed in the pulpits. They are slightly shaken each day in order that the deposit may settle on the cork. These skillful workmen each shake in this way about 30,000 bottles a day. After 2 or 3 months of this treatment, the bottles are piled perpendicularly, head downwards, to await their disgorgement. Here is a stack of 120,000 bottles. Do you want to know how powerful the wine is at this moment? Wait a moment, there you are. Now comes the time when the bottles are to be disgorged, a process which consists in removing the first cork and at the same time the deposit which is adhering to it. This part of the work requires highly skilled precision on the part of the specialists who have been many years at the job and could not easily be replaced. Solved in choice old wine is poured in, more or less being used according to the degree of sweetness required. The bottle is now finally corked. The corks, like the bottles, require most careful manufacture. Champagne corks undergo several processes. Here is one. They are then carefully sorted. The corking must be absolutely hermetic. After some time, the cork takes on its classic shape. The bottle, finally corked, is taken back for the last time to the cellar to wait, probably for some months, the day when it will begin its journey to the consumer. This last short rest perfects the softness and mellowness of the wine. Look at these magnificent bottles, and you will realize how much time, trouble and care has to be expended in order to turn the pretty bunches of grapes into the magical wine to which the whole world pays homage. Imprisoned in these bottles, indeed, is the very soul of the beautiful French province of Champagne. Now we come to the final dressing of the bottles. The anonymous bottle has become, in truth, the bottle of champagne. It is ready to carry to every corner of the globe the renown of this, the greatest of all wines. Here is the packing room. Casing, as it is called, is done with incredible rapidity. Yet this fellow, confiding us at being photographed, has made him... To the tables to which it comes, champagne imparts good fellowship and gaiety. Sparkling wit and sparkling wine go always hand in hand. It is the wine with which the people of every country in the world fill their glasses to pledge a toast of peace and friendship between the nations.